Welcome to the Cubic Hall, Samuel Kangusu, and on today's episode we have got Cathi Schuurmann. You're welcome to the episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So, in case viewers you want to know who Cathi is, can you tell the viewers who you are?
Hi, I am Cathi Schuurmann. I am from the United States, from a city called Chicago, which is in the middle of the country. And I come here to AIU every summer to teach a class called Introduction to Psychology.
She's a teacher of psychology, and today we are going to discuss about psychology. So, can you define to us what is psychology?
So in class, we talk about how psychology is the study of your mental processes and your behavior. So there's kind of two parts that we talk about in class.
The study of two parts, which is behavior and
Your mental processes, the things that go on in your brain.
the things that go on in our brains. So, what are some maybe misconceptions about psychology? What do you think a lot of people misunderstand what psychology is?
So when I've come here to Zambia, I've been coming for this is my 9th trip. So
Wow.
my students often tell me that they think psychology is having the ability to read minds or the ability to somehow understand what people are thinking before people say it, just kind of some almost like magic involved.
Magic.
I wanted to ask you, what are some things that Zambians would say they think psychology is?
According to me, the way I used to understand psychology is, as you said, whereby I'm able to know when someone maybe is lying to me, I'm able to know maybe what is happening in their minds, or maybe what they did yesterday, just by the way they are talking to me and the way they are looking. I'm able to tell like what's wrong with them, and yeah. So that's that. Those are
Similar.
lines I
Yeah.
thought psychology was.
Yeah, okay.
So those are some of the biggest misconceptions about psychology, is that you think like it's reading the mind, but it's not kind of reading the mind. But is it possible, like, for someone who is a psychologist to at least tell to an extent what someone is going through? Is it possible to tell to an extent what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in psychology, when you're training in the United States, at least, to become someone who understands psychology, you take a lot of courses that have to do with understanding or learning how to understand people. So there are different classes when you're getting your master's degree that have to do with people's emotions, or have to do with even stages people are at in life. If you're a child, how you respond to things compared to a teenager, compared to an adult, compared to someone who's old. We also study things like how people respond to something difficult in their life, like grief or abuse or addiction, different topics like that. So then you kind of receive training to understand how to help a lot of different people. So in that way, maybe someone trained in psychology would be able to see someone and understand how they're feeling based on the science that they have studied. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does make sense. Yeah, so just how someone is looking, maybe they undergo a lot of trainings, so that to an extent they're able to tell. So just within psychology, I would just want to understand, being believers. Yeah, are there any disagreements between Christianity and psychology, or maybe they go hand in hand? Yeah, are there any disagreements, or maybe anywhere where it does not just fit complete with a biblical sense? Yeah.
I think one thing we talk about in class is how they can go together. They can go hand in hand, psychology and Christianity. But that also depends on maybe the person who has studied psychology and what they believe. So in the United States, I'm what's called a therapist or a counselor. Okay. And so people will come to me to work through something that is difficult that has happened in their life. And since I'm a Christian, I'm going to help them with those kind of, from that framework, where someone else who isn't a Christian wouldn't put a spiritual focus on how they're helping them, if that makes sense. So
Yes, it
I'm
does.
always going to talk about prayer or talk about, things that have a spiritual piece to it with people that I'm helping.
Wow.
So, but psychology and God, right, go together because God created humans and humans study things like science and animals and nature, medicine. And so studying the human mind and how we work is also an area of study that God created.
Wow, that sounds great. I believe you are enjoying the episode. So there are sometimes like especially here in Africa, there are some things which we deem to be maybe witchcraft, but maybe you have a psychological understanding of what is happening with a person. So what are some of those uh, illnesses or maybe psychological maybe problems that people have, maybe mental illnesses that people have that you see that we misunderstand to be maybe demon possession or something like
So from what I've learned from students, from me, from you, is different things that can affect someone's mind are often viewed as demons or witchcraft. And um, psychology would look at that as what is happening in the brain that is causing a person to experience this.
that. Okay.
So they're very, very different, right, approaches, but something like, I'm trying to think of things we talked about in class. Something like someone who maybe feels very sad, very depressed, and can't work. They cry all the time. They can't leave their house. Maybe in Zambia, that would be seen as they're affected by witchcraft, right?
Witchcraft or
Yeah.
demons, yes.
And in psychology, we would think what has happened to make this person feel such a low emotion or such a low energy, such a big emotion of sadness. And we would look at what's happened in their life to see if there's something that maybe they need to have a better understanding of, or maybe a way to help them through that situation. And if there is nothing going on in their life to cause that level of sadness, then we would think there's a chemical imbalance in their brain, and there are medications that then restore the balance in their brain so the depression goes away.
Wow, that sounds great. I remember one time we were praying for someone because they were abusing drugs, so they were having hallucinations. So they called us, come pray for this son of mine. He's talking anyhow and doing weird things. So when there, we were praying for that person. We prayed, but there was no change. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. We continued praying until we reached at a point whereby we were like, I think, let's find out maybe what is and other reasons maybe behind. Then that's when the mother said to say he used to smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
that's what was affecting.
yes,
Yeah.
so we just came to realize that it is that marijuana that he was smoking that made him do weird things and have those hallucinations. So it's not demons, but it is basically the medicine, maybe the drug that son was taking that made him to be having hallucinations. And I remember one time we were also called for prayers. Someone was drunk and was having all these, hallucinations, saying someone is coming to get me out and all that. And then we prayed, nothing worked out. And then we just realized, my pastor came and said, what are you doing? He said, we are praying for this person requested for prayers. Okay. And then he said, just leave him to rest. I think he was
Until
just drunk.
the alcohol left his body, right?
Yes, so we just left him and went, and then after a day, we came back and say, "How is he doing?" He was just perfectly fine. So I think those are some circumstances or situations where it's important to understand how the mind works, and various disorders that uh, someone can have. It's not all demons, but it's just something that can be understood
Yeah.
by biology.
I think just to add to that, I think it's always important to think of the spiritual world first,
Uh-huh.
right? To see if there is something going on that's
Yes,
affecting them. And then maybe after you rule that out, then you can think this might be biological or it might be psychological or emotional. Yeah.
emotional. Wow.
Which you guys did in those examples.
Yes. So, when can I, as a believer, need a psychologist? When is it appropriate, or in what situations? Yeah, for example, hallucinations. Yeah, we trusted God, but it didn't work. So I think that person had to undergo some therapy and all that, some treatments. So, in what cases or situations? Yeah, we believe, we trust in God as believers, but in what situations should we also consult? Uh, uh, Maybe for help from psychologists? In what situations?
Yeah, I think if you've kind of tried to go to the usual people that could help you. So if you've talked to your pastor, if you've talked to your friends, if you've talked to your family, like people that give you good advice and you've trusted, and no one is able to help whatever the situation is to change, then you could go to, we say like a counselor or a
A counselor.
therapist or a psychologist. And then those are people trained to help you through, help you maybe more than your friends or your pastor or your family could because of the type of training they have.
Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds nice. So, what are some situations maybe where pastors can help other than just dying from the inside? What are some situations when someone just has to see a pastor for help? Maybe, for example, someone is feeling sad, or apart from just feeling sad, which is depression, what other situations or circumstances can make someone?
To see a counselor? To see a
Yes.
counselor? Um, I think in the United States, people will see counselors for reasons that maybe are the same here or maybe different. So feel like someone who has a lot of feelings of anxiety. So instead of just normal worries, their brain is very anxious. So maybe they just everything in their life, they're worried about bad things happening instead of just like, just experiencing life with maybe a few worries here and there. Instead, it's just like this big anxiety. So that would be something a counselor could help with.
Wow.
Counselors often help with married couples who are having a lot of problems. So that's called marriage counseling.
Okay.
Counselors help with depression when people are feeling very sad. And also in the United States, there's a lot of counseling for life changes. So if someone's had a baby or someone gets
Uh-huh.
married or someone's kids all leave home or
Yes.
financial changes or difficulties because of changes in life. That's a big topic that people
Wow.
come to therapy for. Yeah.
Wow. So you have to see a pastor or a counselor or a psychologist if you have uh, anxiety. This is not just, I know we are anxious. Yeah, as being humans, we are anxious sometimes, but they just this way big anxiety within you, or maybe you're feeling depressed,
And it just
or
doesn't go away.
it,
It doesn't get better.
yes. So you can see a friend can be a good counselor,
Yeah.
but make sure you have a friend who can give you good advice, right?
Yeah.
Because they can be good and bad
Right.
counselors. So make sure. I think believers can be great counselors, yes, who we can see for help in case we're
Yeah.
having some struggles in our lives other than dying from inside. Better we share. I know there is just something that happens when you share a problem.
Yeah.
I think you get helped, you feel relieved. I think that happened to me, and I believe it can happen to you. So other than just dying with uh, those situations, better speak up to somebody. Okay, thank you for following through. If you had one thing that people must remember from what we have
Oh,
discussed today, what can that be?
that's a good question. Um, I think just to remember that when you go through something difficult in life, that it's important to talk to someone about it because people can help you. And sometimes just being able to talk to someone, even if someone's just listening, it can help you even find a solution that maybe you hadn't thought about.
Wow.
And even if it's like an emotional thing where you're feeling very anxious or very sad, just talking to someone, they might have advice that can help
help.
you, something you haven't tried yet to just help you change the way you're feeling.
Wow. That sounds great. So if you have a challenge, talk to somebody. Just even listening can help someone who is struggling. So let's be there for others as they are passing through situation. Just you can just listen to them. Yeah. So that is great. Thank you for following through.
Yeah.
I hope you have learned that psychology is not about knowing, reading someone's mind, but it has to deal with mental and behavior. And there are some things which are not demon possession, but it's just basically mental illnesses. Yeah, thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless our guest, Ma'am Cathi.
Thank
Bye.
you.